Hey everyone, welcome back to Elemental Cartomancy. I hope everybody's doing well and I hope that you're enjoying your long Easter weekend. I'm here today to talk about three card spreads. Okay guys, so I've got my tattoo tarot here. I'm going to talk about a bit about some of the three card spreads that I use. Now, a lot of you, if you've watched any of my videos on YouTube, any of my lives where I do live readings, you probably have seen me use a lot of these spreads, but maybe not necessarily, would have explained the exact position meanings and stuff. Um, the one that I use by far the most is the situation, advice, and outcome spread. Okay, I find this so useful, especially for those kind of, the kind of quick questions that you tend to get on those lives. But really, any kind of quick questions that we're coming to the cards for, I find this spread really useful. And it can be useful for a number of different types of questions because sometimes the questions will be you know, advice based. Like I'm having trouble with my relationship right now. What do I need to do to make it better? So the key position for to answer that question would be the advice, the middle card. Equally though, you could have a question like, I'm packing up my house. We're moving at the weekend. Can you tell me how it's going to go? Okay, so you can use the same spread, but the key card in that would be the end card, the outcome card. So different types of questions, but this spread is equally as useful for all of them. So let's have a look just first of all at a general. If somebody says to you, can you give me a general reading? And we're using this situation, advice, outcome. Wow, I can't seem to keep a hold of these cards today, but that's okay. Okay, so a general reading. So let's have a look at the situation first. So we've got the Empress coming up. Okay, so this could, and this is where it's quite useful to be able to kind of fire quick questions at your query. So is there a situation with your mum, or equally, is there a situation with your kids? The Empress being that mother energy, as well as being a maternal energy, the Empress is like a strong, active female energy. We think about the first bunch of cards in the majors. We've got the High Priestess and the Empress right next to each other. Okay, and these are two very strong feminine influences in the tarot. The High Priestess being the more passive, and the Empress being the more active, associated with that kind of creativity, So a whole wealth of things that we could be looking at here, but perhaps there's a creative project going on that your querent needs to nurture. Perhaps there is some sort of situation going on either with them as someone with a mother or with them as a mother, just depending on your querent. It doesn't even have to be a mother. It could just be because I always say when we talk about like kind of mother and father, we're talking about them as archetypes, yeah. So you could be, of any gender. It's talking about your relationship to someone else. I'm sure we all kind of embody that mother archetype from time to time with someone. If you're kind of nurturing them and bringing them up and whatnot. Anyway, so that's what the situation card is talking about. Now, the advice card that we have coming in here is the Tower. Okay, so we can see right away that we're perhaps going to have a bit of a difficult time ahead. If the advice is this tower, the advice is to kind of blast it open. It's don't this isn't like kind of tread lightly. Don't treat it with the kids' gloves. He says whilst he's got a glove on, and by the way, this is just because of my skin. That's a medical thing. But anyway, um, you know, this isn't a situation where you need to be treating it with the kids' gloves. This is one where you You just need to go in there with all of that tower energy. It might involve disruption. You're probably going to have to kind of set yourself back. You're probably going to have to bring down some of those previous kind of things that you've just worked on to build up. It's probably going to kind of reshape some old beliefs and whatnot. And it might be a bit of a difficult time, but the advice very much does seem to be, that's a necessary a bit of a necessary evil. Um, and for the tower as well, we're talking about not just the blast and everything down, but it's what happens after. It's the kind of picking up the pieces, it's salvaging, what you can, taking forward what you can, but equally leaving behind what no longer serves. Okay, and the outcome card that we get is the Ace of Coins. So we are looking at a new beginning here. We're looking at starting from scratch. We're looking at, the advice for me to give here is that this is something, there's an opportunity coming in. You're going to have to work hard at it. This isn't a guarantee of success. It's not a guarantee of, wealth, or, however you choose to see the pentacle or the coins, I suppose we have here, Ace of Coins. Whether it's about health, whether it's about wealth, any of those kind of material things. This isn't guaranteed success. This is potential for success. This is the seed that we can plant that we then have to work hard to nurture and raise up into, a beautiful plant. Okay, so this Empress situation that we've got going on with our querent, um, looking like we're going to have to kind of bring things back to scratch. So maybe there's a creative project that's been going on. Maybe the querent is going to have to pretty much, cancel it or take themselves back to square one. Um, Maybe they're going to find themselves back at square one, whether they like it or not. And the advice aspect is more about, how you react to that. But there is an opportunity there for growth and for success. It just requires hard work, and the willing to start from scratch, to, um, just to be able to kind of salvage what will seem like a loss at the time. Okay, so there's one kind of example of how we can use it, and that was just as a general. Um, Go again. So let's take some of the questions I was batting off before. So if someone comes to you and says, I'm having a bit of a tough time with my relationship right now. Things we seem to be fighting all the time. What advice can you offer me? Okay, so right away the situation card is the Five of Wands. Now, bearing in mind the key card here is going to be the advice, but the situation card coming up is the Five of Wands. We see that kind of that conflict, that competition, that fighting, and the Five of Wands. It's basically things are being shaken up, and the Five of Wands. There's a wee bit of advice in that, in the Five of Wands, and that it doesn't always have to be a negative thing, and the element of fire, which we associate with things like our work, our projects that are important to us, things that where we feel inspired and passionate about. Um, Sometimes we need that five energy. That's something that eventually we have to learn to negotiate. We can't stay in our kind of safe bubble forever. At some point, we have to go out into the big bad world and see how we measure up against the competition. You know, so it doesn't always necessarily have to be a bad thing, in a relationship. If we're kind of bringing it back to the question, sometimes there just has to be those disagreements, because that's how we learn about each other. We are all individuals, and having disagreements is how we eventually strengthen the relationship, just depending on how we treat it and how we react to it and stuff. So the advice, we've got the Queen of Coins here. um, So, I mean, the Queen of Coins is that kind of very maternal, mothering energy. It's like I love the expression. I think it's not an expression. It's a line from a film. It's like today I'm handing out ass whippings and lollipops, and I'm all out of lollipops. Um, the Queen of Coins will build up her, you know, um, the relationships that she's in, she will be the most nurturing, loving person in the world. But equally, if they step out of line, if there's something that, if there's a part of it that she needs to kind of nip in the bud, she'll be quick to do so, and she'll be quick to protect those that she cares about. So I think it's about the advice is maybe about, you know, of course, you need to have that loving relationship. You need to have those good times, but equally, there are going to be times when you disagree. Being in a relationship with someone, it's not meant to be piss easy, we are all individuals, like I said before, with our own views on things, with our own, perceptions and whatnot, our own, what's the word, perspective. So it's only natural that there's going to be disagreements, but like I say, it's how we negotiate that. It's how we deal with those disagreements and how we get out at the other end. And speaking of getting out at the other end, we have the Emperor coming out. Okay, okay. So the Emperor for me is about bringing order from the chaos. You know, um, when we're talking about having a disagreement with someone, in a relationship with someone that we love, it's usually because there's, we've basically come up against a situation where we're not on the same page. The Queen, you know, that is going to happen. You know, there's you can be nurturing and loving, but at the same time, explain to that person, this is where I'm coming from. This is why I don't agree. Where are you coming from? Why do you not agree? The Emperor is basically kind of bringing all that together. It's kind of bringing, just a bit of stability out of that conflict. We started with a five, we're ending with a four. Starting with the instability, ending with the stability, and we've got this kind of very nurturing energy in the middle. So it's, as far as battles in a relationship are concerned, this was quite a nice reading. Um, And yeah, the last example we'll look at with the three card spreads is what was the question that I posed before? Oh yeah, I'm packing up. We're moving house at the weekend. How is it going to go? Okay, so in this example, it's going to be the outcome card is going to be our key. Now for the situation, we've got the three of coins, which is kind of working in collaboration with other people in order to achieve a common outcome, and that can be speaking about the packing up the house, the boxing everything up. You're having to with your housemates or your family, you're having to basically get everything packed up. You're having to work together to get everything packed up in time for moving day. Um, the advice, you've got the Six of Swords there, so we do see an aspect of travel. We see movement from one place to another, from perhaps what's quite a chaotic headspace to a calmer headspace. Um, I think the advice here is, moving house is a stressful time for pretty much everyone, I would imagine. I don't think I've ever come across anyone who says, "Oh, I absolutely love moving house." It's nice to have when it's all done, when you're all unpacked at the other end and everything's hunky dory. But when you're in that process of moving, all that upheaval, it is damn well stressful. Um, and that is okay. It is a disruption. That is just the way it is. So I think the advice here is, yeah, it's going to feel pretty chaotic, but things are going to be okay. Do you know what I mean? You're at the other side. You're going to find those calmer waters. You're going to find that calmer headspace, and you're going to feel much better. Okay. The outcome, which was the key. We've got the eight of coins, so we've gone from this three. Now we're talking about a house move here, right? We're talking about your home. It is the ultimate stability, it's the thing that we all need, food and shelter, those are the things that we talk about. So the shelter aspect is what we all need to make us feel safe and secure. And for me, that's what the coin suit is about. It's about that feeling of safety and security and just that kind of essence of life, that kind of keeps us going and our as material beings, as corporeal beings. So we've gone from three to eight. So we've more than doubled that stable energy. Now 8 is the double 4, so we do have that kind of double stability idea. I always say that, 8, as well as having that ultimate security, you've built that foundation, but you've done that, and now you are in a position where you can, you can advance, you can progress because you've built this stable, um, this stable base for yourself. That is now a platform for you to jump off from to progress to new heights. I think it's just that it's a guarantee of success. In essence, I think is what we're looking at here. There's going to be upheaval, of course. There's going to be upheaval. That's what happens with house moves. But in the end, we're seeing this kind of strong, positive, stable force, just guaranteeing the success of the whole thing. Okay. So that's situation, advice, and outcome. And that is a lovely wee spread to use. Like I say, you probably see me using it all the time. But there's other 3 card spreads that we can use as well. Whoops. Um, one that can be quite useful. I'm just throwing cards everywhere today. Is the it's the Zoe spread. Zoe Matoff, Rachel Pollock's business manager, made up this spread, and it's a cracking wee spread. So it is. When you're looking for advice about a particular situation, someone might say to you, I'm dealing with this right now, and I'm not 100% sure what I'm doing. Uh, I've got some ideas about what I should do, but I just need a wee bit of validation. Okay. Um, this spread is the situation. Do this. Don't do this spread. Okay. So you're getting some ideas about what to do, but also what not to do. Okay. So if someone's kind of coming to you and they're saying, right, I've got some ideas, but I'm not sure if I'm right, if they're looking for advice on what to do and what not to do, then this is a really good spread to use. Okay, so um, let's think of an example question that we could use here. What about I'm wanting to I need a holiday. I'm fed up with all this COVID crap. I need to get away, get out the house, get to some sunny country and just relax for a couple of weeks. But I'm a bit nervous just because the situation still feels very much up in the air. I'm not sure what the right thing to do is. What advice do the cards have for me? Okay, so the situation card. We've got the Empress showing her face again. Okay. So typically in the Empress card, we see her as Demeter. We see her surrounded by the kind of the corn. We see her sitting in the sun. We see her enjoying herself. So that's just kind of that's I would make that link to the kind of holiday idea. You're needing to be in that position of just relaxation. You need to enjoy your environment. The Empress is she well, if you link her to Demeter, who is, the goddess of the crop, she's all about kind of having that safe, that warm, that enjoyable environment. So that's what we're kind of aiming for here. So we've got our Empress energy here. Now, what to do? Temperance, balance, balance it out. So quite a difficult one here because temperance to me usually speaks of, don't go too far in one direction and don't go too far in the other. But of course, the question here is, do I go on holiday or do I not? Essentially, that's what we're trying to understand here. Whereas temperance is like, it's that alchemy of balancing the water and the fire, balancing your emotions against your passions. So to me, this is like I think the advice here, what to do. is, I can't tell you whether you need to go on holiday or not. You need to balance off your desire to get away, get some sun and all that kind of thing with your desire to be safe. Okay, and you need to ultimately make a decision, not just based on you, but also based on what you're hearing in the news, what the advice is, all of that kind of thing. You need to make the decision as to what's the best thing to do for you, what not to do. We've got justice coming out. So justice is what not to do. So justice is another card that's about balance. So maybe this reading is just coming out to challenge me. I suppose justice makes you think of the kind of system that we're within, or it makes me think of that anyway. It makes me think of like the kind of the laws and the kind of natural system. And somebody said something. I think it might have been Kelly Bear on the live she did yesterday. She was saying how she doesn't really listen to just what the government says. She looks into things deeper. She looks at what the kind of scientists that are researching all of this stuff are saying. She would much rather listen to them than listen to the government because, well, the government have let us down and stuff. So maybe it's just that the advice here is, when you are kind of when you are gathering that information, when you're in that information gathering stage, don't just stop at the first hurdle. Don't just kind of turn on the news and listen to it that way. Actually dig deep, go into the kind of science behind it, listen, like look into what the actual people that know what they're talking about, that know all about this stuff are saying. Don't just stop at the advice and the kind of prime minister's answers type thing. Um, so yeah, I suppose that's how I would read that, but yeah, quite a tricky one. So that situation, do this, don't do this. Um, Now there's obviously I suppose the elephant in the room, the thing that I'm not talking about is the three card spread that's in most tarot resources is your typical past, present, future. It's not really one that I tend to use, to be honest with you, because usually when people come to you with questions, I find that they're either wanting to know about where things have come from or they're wanting to know where things are going. It's quite rare that someone will come and say, right, this is what I'm dealing with. Can you tell me, what got me there, and can you tell me where it's going? You know, um, it's quite a useful spread if you're trying to kind of get to the bottom. So if somebody says, I really feel as though I'm fighting with my other half all the time, and I've no idea what's going on. I don't know what's causing it. I don't know what the basis of it is. It just seems to have kind of snuck up on me. Can you maybe offer some insight? Um, so maybe the past, present, future spread would help for that, or you might want to call it something different, rather than, I suppose, past, present, future is just the easiest thing to say, but I know like some books will call it hindsight, insight, and foresight or something like that. But anyway, so if we use that question, so we've got the Eight of Swords coming up as your kind of past, as your kind of basis type. So I would use this to tell me what it is that's caused, where did it all start? These kind of arguments that this couple are having. What is it that's basically kicked that off? What event in the past is still affecting them today? And we have the Eight of Swords energy coming up. So usually the Eight is about achieving that stability, and from thence growing, from thence advancing. But equally, especially when we're in that swords realm, when we're in the realm of the mind and the intellect and this, psychology, um, more often than not, what the eight can be saying is that stability becomes a feeling of being trapped. Okay, and when you feel trapped, when you've convinced yourself that you're in this energy that you just can't break free from, that makes the kind of high movement, the high energy then comes into play, but up here, so you're feeling stuck, and then your mind starts going, whoa, like all this kind of high mental energy that can be really hard to deal with. So it's quite a different way that the eight, the stability plus the high energy of the eight can come into play, and we really see it kind of coming out in the swords. So, in the context of the question, what this would suggest is that at some point in the past, one of them has started to feel, just confined, feel trapped, feel as though they can't do what they want to do because, perhaps because the relationship is just kind of quite constraining. Okay. And that essentially is the answer to the question. That is what is causing the arguments, the conflict that we see today. Now, for the present card, what do we have? We've actually got the Six of Wands. So it's interesting that we get such a positive card coming out when we're looking at quite a negative situation. Um, what I would say though is in the six, normally we associate it with, there's two parties in the Six of Wands. There's one, it's a victory card, right? So somebody's winning, somebody's happy. But if you think of the kind of disconnect between the crowd and the victor, the person who's doing their victory march, it tells me that the relationship feels very much to one of them like the other one is getting, they're getting everything out of it, and the other one is just having to live vicariously through them. Do you see what I mean? So one of them is the victor, one of them is the one who's on their horse, and they're being cheered on and stuff like that. They're basically getting all the spoils. And then the other one feels as though they're just a kind of bystander. They're just part of the crowd that's having to cheer them on and watch them be successful. They're not really getting any of that success for themselves, you know and that can be quite a difficult place to be if you feel as though you're in that situation, especially if you're feeling trapped in that situation. That can lead to feelings of resentment and whatnot. So maybe that's what we're kind of seeing play itself out here. Now let's have a look at the future card. Let's look at where things are going. We're looking at the High Priestess here. So perhaps there is going to be some time spent taking a break, because the High Priestess is a very kind of passive energy. So it speaks a lot about, spending some time going within, and understanding yourself better. Okay. Um, it doesn't speak a lot about communication. The High Priestess for me is not a card about communication. It's almost the opposite. The High Priestess is normally kind of holding a lot of the information that she has. She keeps it to herself. She's a very mysterious character, and she doesn't really give very much away. Okay, that it's not the kind of card I would like to see as an advice when we're talking about relationship problems, because for me, if there's problems, then what's really needed is communication, and the High Priestess for me is the opposite of that. So we're coming up to a period where there's not going to be much communication. And yeah, I mean, I suppose from that we could bounce off that and give advice. We could say, like, look, I can see that you're coming up here to a period where you're going to feel like just kind of going within, withdrawn, not really communicating, not really telling the person how you're feeling, not telling them what's going on in your head. You know, if that's how you feel you need to deal with the situation, then I'm only here to read the cards. But what I would say is just try and bear in mind to at least have some balance. Have some balance between doing what you have to do to look after yourself, but equally communicating. A relationship is at the end of the day all about communication, and if you're not communicating, if each side isn't communicating how they're feeling, then there's no way that it's going to get any better. So there's just a wee example of how I might use the past, present, future spread, but like I say, it's not really one that I tend to use. Um, Other than that, I don't tend to use very many three card spreads. I might pull a random one out of the bag every now and then if I get a question that's a bit different that I think, a different spread might be useful for. Um, but yeah, other than that, I think um, that's really it. That's the extent of my three card reading knowledge. There will, like I say, there are of course other ones, but what I don't want to do is start kind of talking to you about each and every three card spread, and I don't want to start talking about ones that I don't really have very much experience of using. Um, so yeah, I hope that was helpful, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that everybody has an amazing weekend. Take care, and I shall hopefully speak to you all soon. Bye bye.